And you're welcome back. As artificial intelligence continues to evolve and reshape industries globally, one of the most pressing concerns in Africa is its potential impact on jobs. In a continent where unemployment rates remain in a significant challenge, remains a significant challenge, there is a widespread fear that AI could displace workers and deepen economic disparities. However, some experts argue that AI should not be seen as a threat, but as a transformative tool for innovation and job creation. They suggest that with the right preparation, AI could become a catalyst for economic growth, increased productivity, and the emergence of new opportunities. And so joining us to discuss more on this is Kolawole Adebayo. He's a tech analyst and creative director at BrainBox. Kolawole, good to have you join us. I mean, let's just get started, shall we? Everyone's asking the question, when you hear AI, what comes to mind is we're losing our jobs. The robotics are taking over. I mean, thanks to Hollywood and all of the movies we saw in the early 2000s. But I do have to ask you, particularly for Nigeria, how does AI address the widespread concern that AI would lead to significant job displacement?
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
First of all, I think I should say that the fear is indeed real. You know, it's not exaggerated at all. There's a website called Will a Robot Take My Job, right? I wrote about it last year in an article. And people are actually going to that website to check the risk factor for their jobs, you know. So the fear is indeed real, right? But what I think African nations need to be doing is create national AI strategies that actually change the narrative of that fear. Because, you know, even though the fear is real, right, that fear is amplified by a lack of information in the public. Thankfully, there are a few countries in Africa that have a national AI strategy. Nigeria has one, Rwanda, South Africa, Egypt, and a few others, right? But there are just 8 of them, and we have 54 countries in Africa, right? So when you put that into perspective, we're not doing enough in shaping that narrative. And the way to shape it is drive a narrative that AI, yes, there is fear, but it also provides opportunities. It can displace a few jobs or some jobs, but it will also create like a lot of other jobs. You know, for instance, essentially for an AI model to work, there has to be like pre-trained data sets. And these data sets actually need people to label them, validate them, train them, right? Because the outcomes of an AI model really essentially depends on the data that it's been trained on. So there's going to be more jobs in data science, data analysis, and AI governance, which is actually now an interesting trend. You know, we need to have frameworks that actually govern not just how AI is being built, but how AI tools are being used. You know, so a national artificial intelligence strategy across African countries can actually help to shape that narrative. It's a good thing that we're doing that in Nigeria. There was a national AI strategy draft that was published last year.
By I think the Minister for Digital Economy?
The Federal Ministry of Information, Communications and Digital
Economy. Yeah. So I mean, speaking of just the benefits of it, when it comes to Nigeria and Africa at large, what sectors then do you think most benefit from an AI adoption?
Yeah, there's a lot of sectors, but I think top on the list for me would be healthcare, number one, and that's because I've seen that actually in motion, and I've seen an example. I was in Israel last year, and I was at Sheba Medical Center, which is arguably one of the biggest hospitals in the Middle East, and there's a tool that the hospital had developed called Leave, which helps healthcare experts with diagnosis, right? So if you're like a mental health patient and you need diagnosis for your mental health problem, or you have a mental health issue, you go and then there's this tool that you talk to that essentially takes down the notes and summarizes it, and then takes it back to the doctor, and the doctor doesn't need to go through that process again. And when you look at the doctor to patient ratio in Nigeria, it's perhaps one of the lowest in the world.
Yes.
Right? So AI can help in that sector. AI can also help in agriculture, to provide things like weather, forecasting weather patterns for agriculture, players in the agricultural sector. Kenya is actually, they are leveraging IBM's Watson tool, which essentially uses data from the local weather forecasts in Kenya to actually predict weather patterns for farmers. They're also leveraging like AI and machine learning for detecting what's in the soil, like soil analysis. They're also using AI for crop soil disease, analysis and things like that. So that's a very important center point, of any nation's economy, agriculture. So AI can actually also help in that regard. There are a lot of industries, but I think healthcare, agriculture, and education are like actually really major industries where AI can be very helpful.
Kolawole, I'm very concerned, and let me tell you why. I like to call myself a cinephile, which is a movie buff, right? And so the recent nominations in the Oscars, the Academy Award, the movies, the films of the year, they all, except one from the category for nominations, all had adopted AI, either during the editing process, the post-production period, the editing of the film itself, or even screenwriting. And we're now seeing a push for it now with Mark Zuckerberg and his announcement of AI and all that they're going to be doing for the next, for this year on with AI. And so it begs to ask the question about collaboration, how AI can enhance human capabilities rather than replace, human workers.
Yeah.
Because that's a real fear when we're seeing that already on a commonplace, or rather in a high stage as Oscars.
I should mention that there was a song, I think it was in 2023 or 2024, that was nominated for the Grammys. And it was essentially produced by an AI.
Isn't that propaganda then? The real question is this not propaganda?
That actually opens up another kind of worms, because now we're coming to copyright issues, which is like a slippery slope. The copyright issues are not yet fixed, they're evolving, but that's another kind of worms, and it's a real concern, right? But at the end of the day, there's going to always be a human in the loop. And one maxim that I've heard so much in the industry and a lot of people talk about is how that AI is not going to replace people. A person who can use AI is going to replace people, right? Because at the end of the day, AI models, AI applications are essentially tools that you can use to do your job better. I'll use a very popular example. There are like graphic design tools like CorelDRAW, Adobe Photoshop. There are designers who know how to use those tools than other designers, right? So ChatGPT, for example, you can use it for brainstorming or for creating like the first draft if you're like a writer. Now, again, that's like another kind of worms, but there are people who are going to be able to use these AI tools better than some other people because there needs to always be a human in the loop. As I said before, AI applications essentially are a function of the data they are trained on. And so that means they can actually produce incorrect outcomes sometimes, and that's what is called AI bias, right? So there's always going to be a human who needs to be in the loop to check, AI's lapses. But AI and human beings can actually collaborate, to do work faster and do work better. And that's where we're going right now. And I think if you're actually not utilizing some of these tools, you're just missing out.
No, because I don't want to give my data to AI, but Kolawole, don't mind me. Technology is important, but also another discussion, and hopefully we can have this another time when you come on for subsequent bulletins, would be about upscaling, and how Nigeria can move with the rapid trend of technology, because we have our own issues here, the education gap, infrastructure, there's so much, electricity, data.
National grid collapsing.
Please tell me about it. Kolawole Adebayo, thank you so much for doing this. He's a tech analyst, and he joins us here today on News Now, as well as a creative director at BrainBox to talk to us about AI in Africa.